Hi, and welcome to Chamber Chat. I'm Danielle McFadden, president of the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce. This Inside Lowell podcast is coming to you from the WellPoint Studios. WellPoint, the only health plan offering health care benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties. Quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Boston North Company. Business solutions for restaurant and retail. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection since 1925. Francis E. Prevention Insurance. The agency Greater Lowell has counted on for more than 41 years. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing the action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. And now time for another Inside Lowell podcast. Inside Lowell, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. And I am so excited to introduce our guest today. I have Diego Leonardo. He is the executive director and co-founder of the Latinx Center.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being here. We had such a great conversation off air, so I'm really happy to bring it on air to all of our listeners and viewers. I'm starting with the fact that you have changed the name.
Exactly. Yeah, we are starting to rebrand the name. Latinx Community Center for Empowerment. It's really a strong name. It brings a lot of strong commitment to it, but it's so hard to pronounce, so hard to take it into a small talk. And if you ask some students, where do you go to school? They're not going to mention the whole name. They said the Latinx Center or the Latino Center or the English classes. So that's coming in mind, so we can be mindful that the name is not usually who you want to be associated, but how people feel about that name. So that's where we're bringing it up.
Excellent. That makes so much sense. And we were also talking about the word Latinx.
Correct.
And you were educating me on that. So I'd love to bring that education to our viewers.
Yeah, so Latinx, it's a scholar term that was included, I think, in mid 2000s, where there was this way of understanding that Spanish has genders when it comes to words, names, and pronouns. So with that in mind, there was this scholar that created the term Latinx. So it can include and incorporate the female and the male. So it's not just Latinos or Latinas, but it can be just a general term. But it brings a lot of controversy when it comes to people that have already identified themselves as Hispanic or Latinos, and it's so hard to dissociate themselves from the name. And also there's this thing that maybe because the term it's X, so what kind of genders are we including? So those are the things that really come in mind. So there was this interesting dynamic that we started to interview people and how do they felt about the word Latinx. And at the beginning, there was a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
And then we noticed that there's age differences that really associate the name with it. So if they're 50 and older, Hispanic is the term that they embrace. And if they are 30 to 50, sometimes they use Latino, Latina. Some of them, if they're college educated, will use the term Latinx, but the younger generation, it's really inclined to use that word Latinx as part of their lingo. So it's a thing to recognize, and also to keep in mind that Latino and Hispanic creates differences in areas. So Latinx really comes to embrace the whole term in Latin America. So we can include people that speak Portuguese, speak Haitian Creole, English, because they are part of the demographic of Latin America. But if it's Hispanic, there will be only people that speak Spanish, so that it's very inclusive in a sense as well. So that's that. And Hispanic, it's also a term that was acclimated by Congress, like in the early 60s and 50s. That's when they wanted to make the differentiation between whites and Mexicans that were coming from the Bracero program, because at the beginning they only had two slots to select their race, and that's when it really created this inclusivity to, okay, let's make this differentiation, and then Hispanic. So now people from Spain were selecting Hispanic, and it was just a way to start making this acknowledgement of where they're coming from.
Thank you for that. I looked into it before, but it's never been explained so eloquently. So I appreciate that. And I'm sure our viewers do as well.
That's right.
Let's talk about all the amazing things you do at the center. I mean,
Yes.
you're constantly evolving and adding programming and
Yeah.
accommodating the needs of our community.
That is correct. So currently we are enrolling English students. So we're offering English classes on Thursdays from 6 to 9 and Saturdays from 9 to 12 p.m.
And do you take
And
both? Is it both days or that's one class?
no, one section it's for evenings, and
Oh,
then the other
perfect. That's
section
great.
it's
So
for
accommodating
Saturdays.
everybody's schedules,
Exactly.
which is really
And
nice.
this comes in mind that we're not trying to recreate the wheel. So if
Mm-hmm.
there's organizations that already have classes going on those times, we
Yep,
don't want to just create competition. We just want to accommodate. So we're more like
absolutely.
creating this connection and collaborate with other organizations. So we noticed that Thursday was a very acclimated time for
Mm-hmm.
many people, especially the ones that are working on Saturdays, couldn't come, and at night sort of kind of accommodated their
Yeah,
schedules. So we opened up that section and started to fill up
great.
really fast. And then Saturdays was the thing after we did some workshops with daycare providers. They were asking for English classes, and the only day they don't have to take care of anybody was on Saturday. So that's when we started to do that. And we noticed that also in the city there was not offerings on Saturday. So we
Yeah.
started to do that as part of creating this option so people can have many options. Another thing that I highly encourage students to do is if they can take advantage of all the courses and classes that are available, if they can go to the library, they can go
Yeah,
to the adult education, the community college, or online classes, take as many as they can because it's only doing good for them.
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's great advice.
yes. And then with that in mind, some people are asking, how come you're not providing Spanish classes? And yeah, now we are providing Spanish
Wow, there
classes
you go.
coming
Ask and you
up.
shall receive.
Coming up, starting on September 12th, that's when we have our first class evenings. This is to accommodate more working um, professionals that
Yep.
want to learn more, given that they're manufacturing, sometimes they're managers and they're hiring a lot of people that don't speak English, but they had to be in communication. So yeah, also Mass Hire has been telling us, when are you doing Spanish
Awesome.
programming? So yeah, we started to do this as part of the ask, and we do a lot of surveying and questions, so we don't just want to come up with the program
Absolutely.
without thinking if there's a need or not. So yes, definitely it's a
Awesome.
thing to do.
You really have a pulse on the community.
Yes, we tend to be that way. Yeah,
And you have a big event coming up on September 28th,
that's
the
correct.
Lowell Hispanic and Latinx Fest.
Yes. So let me tell you a story about the Lowell Hispanic and Latinx Festival. This festival really started in a way that we were coming out of the pandemic. A group of Latino leaders met, and we were talking about the possibility to do a gala. They're like, yeah, the gala will be nice to celebrate the Latino community, the differences that exist in many countries, and
Yep.
how culturally we're so diverse, and the language that can unify us. But we noticed that galas are very exclusive too. It's
Mhm.
only people that can afford the ticket, or
Yeah.
if there's, uh, you have to have a very good wardrobe in order
Right.
to
That's
get there.
exactly what
'Cause
I thought right away. I'm like, that might turn people off. Just like, oh, I have to wear, a
yeah,
nice suit or a tux or a gown.
exactly. So with that in mind, my wife and I were having this conversation, and she mentioned, "Why don't we do a festival? Festival is a way that everybody can participate. They can
Absolutely.
come, and we can also educate other community members into
Yes.
what
Learn about the
the
cultures.
culture
Yeah.
entails." And one word and term that I like to use a lot is that we Latinos are more than eating tacos and dancing salsa. We have so much more to offer, and that's where the festival started. So with this idea, we created a list of performances that we wanted to present. I wanted to incorporate pretty much the main groups in Lowell.
Hmm.
So the Colombians, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and Ecuadorians, and also introducing Brazilians that are very big in the city of Lowell. But because of language differences, you see this gap between
Hmm.
getting each other together. So we just created that lineup and we said, well, if we get 200 people, we will be super happy. That's the
Goodness.
best thing we could do. So we did it on September 30th of 2022, and we got 1,500 people the
I
day
know.
of the
Well, when you
event.
said 100, that's why I said, "Oh my goodness," because I was looking at you have a great
Yes.
impact report and sponsorship opportunities, and that's a
Yeah. So
huge number for the
it
first
really
time.
um, went off the
You're
charts.
like,
What
we're
we
on.
were
That's when you
thinking.
know we're
Yes.
on to something here.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and definitely you can see it when after 2 hours, all the food vendors were done,
Oh my
and
gosh.
there was no more food for them to sell. So that was the thing. We had this particular vendor that they happened to have a small bodega and a restaurant, so they were just offloading
Oh my
lots of
gosh.
food, and the lines were huge. So you notice that there is something that we really haven't done, and it's creating this
Yeah.
inclusion because we do have the Puerto Rican festival, but it's just one country, and Lowell it's so unique, and sometimes I like to call it the petri dish for the nation because there's so many cultures involved in this. So
Absolutely.
if something really has to happen or makes a difference, then that's when we can tell there is going to
Mm-hmm.
be something happening nationwide that we can set the tone and be that research lab
That's great.
for
The
the nation.
research lab. I mean, anybody who, likes food and dancing and culture will gladly be part of that kind of your test your
Yes.
test product.
So definitely, and with that, we also have a couple of things that we needed to mention. So as part of the committee, most of the committee members, we started to talk about what are we doing here. Do we want to do another Semana Hispana like the one in Lawrence? Do we want to do or compete with the Puerto Rican festival? But we noticed that there's this need of feeling closer to home. And when you feel closer to home, there's sometimes people that are not able to go back to their home country or they're missing certain things that only happen in a specific or particular town. And bring it here would be something
Awesome.
like, yes, you can bring that recognition of the country that you came from and make sense and also share it with somebody else and be there. So the whole mission vision that we have as part of the festival is to unify the Latinx community by having this family event that it's inclusive and also celebrates the folk cultural diversity of the
Excellent.
Latino community. And our mission is to offer a festival that can facilitate an interactive platform to connect with community and art, handcrafts, and the diverse cultural expressions. So it's really a matter to get there, understand why Colombians from Medellin in Lowell and what
Yeah.
do the most of them come from Don Matias. There's still people in Don Matias, by the way, but that is another thing to create that connection with the textiles, with
Mm-hmm.
the culture, with the food, and then you can see that there's also differences between the Ecuadorians that are in Lowell. We have some Ecuadorians that are more indigenous descent and they
Mm-hmm.
don't speak Spanish they as their first language. It's Quechua, their first language.
Wow.
And also you have some others that are more European descent that they have Spanish as their first language. So there's this also bridge that happens that we need to connect these
Oh my
cultures
goodness.
and diversify in that with it. So yeah.
And when you said kind of bringing back, feeling like you're in your country and the nostalgia of it all, but
Yes.
but sharing it with somebody else. I'm sure in many cases people have children who are born here, so to give them access to show
Right.
them like the smells and the tastes and the music
Yeah.
and to feel the textiles.
That's correct. And one thing that I mentioned to one of my best friends coming to the U.S., the thing that I told him, and I also heard it reinforced when I went to Middlesex Community College, was that you don't need to travel the world to
Mm,
experience the world. You just need to travel in the U.S. and
yeah,
you'll
it's
be anywhere in the
incredible.
world. So that's actually right because it's so good to see that you have so many different Asian cultures in Lowell, but you can taste their plates, you can taste the
Yes.
culture, but also we are giving that channel for Latin America to happen too, because we're not just arroz and habichuelas. We're really more
I could just
than
listen to
anything
you
you can
talk all
get.
day. I'm like, I don't sound eloquent at all when I hear you talking. Can you talk a little bit about your journey here? Because I know
Sure,
we've met over coffee and talked about it, but for the listeners to know a little
definitely.
bit more about
So
you.
yeah, so I grew up in Guatemala. I came here when I was about to turn 21. And reason being, I have an aunt that she came to study in the
Hmm.
U.S. and then she stayed. Had a family here, and back home in Guatemala, we were pretty much settled. I have my own car. My mom never worked. We have servants at home, so it was pretty much like a bubble that I was living
Hmm.
with. And I always like to mention that I used to live in this bubble where um, the houses were all the same, and then people pretty much had most of the same jobs. The families were like all together.
Yeah.
The parents were just the ones that mom stays at home, dad goes to work, and then when he comes home, mom goes and greet dad, and
There's
then
a
the
movie
kids
called
go.
Pleasantville, and that's exactly the concept.
Exactly
Yeah.
that. So that was pretty much my upbringing until I came to the U.S. That's when my bubble burst in a way, because now you're not part of a group. You're an immigrant, and you have to pretty much get yourself together. And I was so dependent on my parents because they were the ones that provided everything. And coming here is like, we don't know as much English as you do. So now you are the translator, you
Wow.
are the
And did you speak very
interpreter.
fluent
I
English at that
didn't
point?
speak any
Wow, that's
fluency at all. I was taking English
yeah,
classes, but it's not the same thing as when you start really interacting with somebody.
absolutely.
Just coming in, and it's like I had this very funny interaction my first time. We went to a sandwich shop, and my parents wanted to have a ham and cheese. And in Spanish, H is silent, and H in English sounds like a J,
Yeah.
and the J sounds like a Y. And I went to ask for a jam and cheese sandwich. So when we got the jelly and the cheese, and I
The
was
person was
telling my
like, "All
parents,
right, the customer's always
I
right."
don't think this is the right thing. And I
Wow.
said, I want the meat. And he's like, what kind of meat? We have all these kinds. And it was just a fun
Wow.
interaction that I said to my dad and my mom at that time. I think the only way that we can really survive in this country is if we get education.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can get stuck in jobs that are not good paying jobs, or maybe we're getting by with two, three jobs at the time, but we really need to improve ourselves in that way. And English, speaking English will be the only way. And that was really the reason in that make me go for higher education. Although coming from the U.S., I had an associate degree in X-ray tech, so I used to do
Oh wow.
taking
Yeah.
radiographies for broken people, and
Broken people.
they will always have
Sometimes that stuff doesn't show up on an X-ray.
That's right. That's on the other kind of breakage, but yeah, that was one of my jobs because I was attending medical school at the time. So I had this funny story
Wow.
too. Um, I remember graduating from high school. I was 17, and I told my dad I want to take a gap year. I want to travel the world, and he's like, "Yeah, with what money?"
Like,
I was like,
oh,
"Ooh,
that's another. You had another bubble burst. That was
yes,
your first bubble burst.
that's right." And then he told me, "You have 2 weeks to find out what you want to do in life. If not, I want to enroll you into law school."
Wow.
And the thing is that in Latin America, I think you go directly to the um, schools, not like here that you
Oh,
have
so you
to
don't go
get a
to college.
bachelor's.
Interesting. So
And
you could
then,
go straight to law
yeah,
school, straight
because
to medical
law school,
school.
medical school are considered a grad school level
Yeah.
education. Um, it's undergrad in Latin America. So, but
Oh,
still, you have a lot of years of study.
yeah.
So there's
It's really
7 years to
interesting.
get um, your medical doctor
Yeah.
degree, and it's 5 years to be a lawyer. So I
Wow.
at that time I was telling my dad, you know what, I'm going to find out what to do. So I applied to a medical school, and there was the last chance to take the test, and I flunked the test, so I didn't got accepted. And it's like, well, you have one more week, find out what to do.
He's putting the
And
pressure on.
yeah, So then I went to, my aunt was working at a college at that time. And I asked her, do you know any health
Yeah.
care program that I could take for a year or two? And she's like, well, there's this 3-year program that you can take. It's an X-ray tech program. If you take it, then you can drop out and continue into medical school. But the thing that I like was that when I started studying, most of the professors were people that didn't got to the medical school
Yeah.
at the first year, and they took the program, and now they're radiologists, or they were just
Yeah.
trained doctors already. And that kind of motivated me to finish the program. So instead of taking me 3 years, I finished up in a year and a half.
Wow.
So I took,
Geez, you went from your dad lighting a fire under you to like, I am going to smash the record,
yeah.
finished in a year and a half.
So yeah, and then I went to medical school. So one thing I was doing while I was in medical school, I had exposure to the hospital. So I was working in the hospital and then going to medical school. And I did 2 years, and that's when we received a notification. I knew when I was 15 years that my parents were about to receive some sort of green card to come to
Yeah.
the US. And then my dad forfeited something. And then coming up to 20, we went to a health scare. My dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And we're like, what are we going to do with our life? He was given 15 days of life. And then we were like, so what about going to the US? This is not going to happen. Then me changing plans, maybe I can open up a radiology center and then I take the x-rays there, or what to do. And thankfully, my dad is a miracle. If you're a spiritual person, I can definitely tell you that the more you hug to your faith and you believe into the process, and there is a change in your life and your mentality, you can overcome anything. And that's one lesson that really, really got us to come here. And then I think the reasoning why we came to the US was because my dad wanted to have a second chance in life. Because he used to be the CEO of Domino's in Latin America. And after he was completely cured, there was no cancer in his body, he went back to work, and they're pretty much babying him. And it's like, oh, just work 1 day a week, and then you can stay at home or try to travel, enjoy your family. When we got the notification to come to the U.S., it's like, screw it, I'm going to the U.S.
Wow,
Nobody
that's
knows me.
incredible.
So yeah, we came here and we started working at McDonald's together, and that was one of the things that really set my educational journey, because I noticed how happy he was at making burgers and being there just because he was feeling somebody that can be positively impacted and it worked. So we worked together for 3 months. And the 3 months, he was the employer of the month every time. So I couldn't beat him. It was a competition. I was like,
Oh my
I want to
God.
have it
He's
this
like,
month.
you
And
don't
he was
stand a
always,
chance.
yeah. As soon as he left and got a better job, that's when I became the employer of the month. So it was just the thing, like, you needed
That
to
is
go so
so
I can get it.
funny.
And that pretty much was my upbringing here to the US. I always wanted to go to medical school, but um, I fell in love with biotechnology. And I think Middlesex kind of changed my mentality on that sense. Taking classes with Dr. Bladen and Professor Patif, they really changed me, show me a side of the medical field that I wasn't aware of, that I could be at, and I was really good at too. So yeah, and then I ended up being the commencement speaker for Middlesex
Wow.
and got scholarship to finish up my bachelor's degree, and now I'm finishing up my MBA at BU. So
What a story.
yes,
Oh my gosh. I just have so much admiration like
thank you.
for people who can come into the motivation that you have to learn English and really just start over is incredible.
And stories like mine are not unique in the Latino
Yeah.
community. They're more common than we would
Yeah.
have think. But we haven't really tackled to the right channels and networks to overcome what are the difficulties or the lack of access to certain things because of um, not knowing.
And is that where the
And
center comes into
and
play?
that's where the center
Yeah.
comes into play. And it also came into play because so my now wife, girlfriend at the time, she was very involved with things in the community. Her major was a social science major. So nothing to do with science,
Yeah.
and I really wanted to have different conversations than talking about sales and things like that. So she was really the force behind to getting to know the different resources, and especially she being unable to tackle certain things because of her status.
Mm-hmm.
um, Allow me to understand the struggles that happens in families as well,
Yeah.
that are in the US, and especially in Lowell, that there's this thing that happens, that there's dichotomy of knowing and not knowing about
Mm-hmm.
what to access and what not to access. And one thing I was telling my family is, we had a family dinner one time, and I said, I can't believe that sometimes we were acting ourselves as if we were undocumented, even though we had access to
Mm.
many things. Not knowing where to have those access made us take decisions that weren't very informed for
Yeah.
us. So yeah, we were homeless for probably 2 months. We were living in a basement of somebody, and it things because of not knowing. And I
Yeah.
think that's when I mentioned churches and um, other social activities as a place to gather, to find home
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and they've become really good at connecting you with jobs. But that's when sometimes you get stuck because the responsibilities amount the pressure, and then you
Yeah.
have to continue, and sometimes you don't have the luxury to leave one job to study, train,
Right.
and then get a better paying job. But those are things that we are really interested to come up into conversation. So CVA was the one that opened up the doors for us to start
That's great.
gathering, having some conversations. And since they had a Latino history of foundation, that was one thing that allow us to have conversations. But at that time, we weren't diversifying our conversations. It was just people from Puerto Rico that was leading the conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more complexity when you add now Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Colombians, Guatemalans, including
Yeah.
myself in there. So there's different things that you are seeing because of the way that you grew up, the insecurities that are at your
Mm-hmm.
home. Sometimes people are escaping economical um, uncertainty, and
Mm-hmm.
some others are um, escaping political instability, and some of them are escaping insecurity. So there's a lot of violence, and that's what makes
Yeah.
then everybody come together here. And then what do you do? Oh, I don't know anything. I don't know the people that can
Right.
guide me to where to find a job and things like that. That's why it's so important to have, particularly people that understands, not just because they have a Latino sounding name. Sometimes they can be the best person to connect, but people
Mm-hmm.
that really had the background and went through certain things, they tend to give the extra mile to connect people
Yeah.
and understanding the stories that come with it.
Remarkable all the work that you're doing and that you saw
Thank you.
this as something that was a extreme need within the
Yes.
community, and now you're doing everything you can to help.
Yes, definitely. That's the thing. And I, um, one time I was judging my teacher, I mean, my professors at the college. So I said, how come they're so happy, but they talk about biotech and you could be making all this money and they are here teaching?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense to me. Why aren't they so laureate and having all
Yeah,
this
yeah. Go
amount?
immerse yourself in the profession and make all
Exactly.
that money. Yeah.
And now that I'm on this career path, I started to understand that there's more happiness than just getting money.
Yes.
The way of giving back, I think it's what really creates this notion that you are fulfilling your goals, and your
Yeah, I mean that
responsibilities
just
change in a
like
way.
being altruistic and
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. So
You
now
can't
I
put a price on
understand them.
that.
I'm not judging them anymore.
So you have a really good website. If people are interested in finding more about the Latinx Center,
Yes.
they can go to the website, which
Yes.
we'll share when we post this.
Yeah, so the latinxcenter.org, that's our website.
Yep.
So there's going to be a button that jumps right at you. That's the phone number. If there's some information that you like to get, we're trying to be more interactive in a way that we're providing information and making it more fun to navigate as well. Not just a website that you scroll down and try to find things, but being able to see what goes in there and try to bring you inside
Awesome.
the organization. So we have some posters, some pictures of the classes that we give. And one interesting topic that it's been coming up is people that check our website said, "Why is everybody happy?" I don't know, but I invite you to come to the center and take a look for
And find
yourself and
out. You
find
will be
out.
smiling.
Yes.
Well, I mean, just talking to you, I can see why people are happy. And then one more time, let's talk about the Lowell Hispanic Latinx Fest. Can you give the date, the time, and what people can expect?
Yes.
when they come?
So this year we're going to host it at the boarding house park.
Awesome
So,
location for that.
with the history of
Yes.
the Folk Fest, we don't want to compete with the Folk Fest. We're not there yet, but we do want to bring a venue that can accommodate everybody in a centralized
Yeah.
position. We used to host it at the North Common Park, and then vendors were pretty much on one way, and then the performances were happening. So if you wanted to be in both sides, it was very difficult. But at this time, you can be buying your food and also enjoying what the performances are
They'll
happening
all be
in
on the
front.
stage?
Yes, they'll all be on the
Awesome.
stage.
Oh, that's going to be a great backdrop.
We're hoping to have a dance floor as well, so stay tuned. Hopefully,
Ooh,
we can have a dance floor closer to the stage and
nice.
a lot of family activities. So this festival really encourages families to come. We're not selling alcohol, so the whole reason is because we really want to have fun without having an enhancement.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So you can bring your kids over. There might be certain things that we're trying to bring up. So we're working with the national park and some nonprofits that work with kids to decorate hats. And I will send the picture so you can
Ooh, how
take a look.
fun.
So we want to decorate the street with that. And that's because there are so many places in Latin America. So if you go to Guatemala, to Lake Atitlan, there are streets that they call the hat streets, and everybody paints their own hat and they hang it up. If you go to Colombia, there's also parts in Cali that had things like that. If you go to Dominican Republic, there's this street in Puerto Plata that has things like that. So we just want to bring this
I
thing that
love
makes
that.
the
So
culture
festive.
excitement. So yeah, and there's gonna be a lot of things with that. We also are bringing 8 different cultural performances. So we're going to have
Wow.
presentations from Grooversity, which is a drum set, Brazilian percussionist that it's coming with drum set. They're fantastic, and with a surprise in there. We're also bringing vallenato from Colombia to really put people to dance and see that there's different music genres than just the ones that you're used to.
Awesome.
We're also bringing a collaboration with UMass Lowell, with the UMass Lowell Land Assemble, and they're bringing cultural performances such as um, bachata, salsa, and some Latin jazz.
Oh,
So
how
that is
fun.
going to be really exciting. We are bringing a mariachi from Guatemala.
Awesome.
He was the winner of a Spanish um, talent show that happened in Valencia, Spain, Aim to Fame. He was a winner and
Ooh.
he was part of a label. He used to sing with high caliber artists, including Alejandro Fernandez, mariachis from Mexico, and now he's coming to perform our event.
Awesome.
So we have
Wow.
somebody
You draw the
internationally.
people.
Yes, and we also are bringing some cultural dances. We're gonna have dances from Peru, dances from Dominican Republic, Colombia, and very interactive. We also having the Dominican Carnival. So if you haven't had the chance to go to Dominican Republic in the month of February, we're gonna bring it to you here in
Awesome.
the month of September to celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month. So that's just in the cultural part. Now, when it comes to food, that's where some people get excited, including myself.
I know. I'm like, tell
As
me
you
more.
can tell, I like to eat. We're having some Colombian Puerto Rican fusion coming to here. We're having a Mexican um, tent. We're also bringing some Dominican culture dish that it's called pastelón um, en hoja, which is a mashed yuca and plantain.
Ooh,
It's
that
just
sounds
fabulous. I just
incredible.
highly encourage to taste it. We're also bringing some Puerto Rican dishes like pinchos, rice and beans, and there's going to be, in addition, this year for the first time we're having a Brazilian food vendor, which you
Ooh,
can have all the differences that the Brazilian food
awesome.
brings. That's that. Now we also have a Colombian Brazilian fusion. Um, that they're bringing some acai bowls, some Colombian street food, and it will be really exciting to have that.
Ooh, that all
That's
sounds
on the
great.
on the savory side. Now on the sweet side, we have some surprises that you might have in this case. So you're gonna have some tasteful pastries that come from Latin
Awesome.
America. So yes,
Wow.
it's
Oh my
exciting.
gosh. So exciting. And then also we mentioned already traditional arts and crafts as well.
Yes,
So
there
a little
might
bit
be
of
some
everything.
workshops there. We're gonna bring some artists that they can do activities with the people. This year, we're trying to be more interactive as possible,
Yeah.
so people not only get to see the paintings or get to see the arts and crafts, but they can make their own too. So
Awesome.
there's that additionally
Wow.
to
I
the
can't wait.
festival.
I'm like already planning on going down with my kids. They would love this.
Yes.
And it's all day.
All day, yes, from 1 to 9, September 28th. So mark your calendars. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff happening, and we hopefully make it into the 200th anniversary of the city. So we are
Awesome.
also trying to bring maybe more interactive activities and high performer artists and sons, so we can have that happening
Yeah, in
for
a couple,
future
yeah, a
years.
couple years. Yeah,
So
that's great.
yes.
And there are still sponsorship opportunities available.
Correct. We still have sponsorship opportunities available. For more information, you can contact at info@latinxcenter.org or Hispanic Fest at latinxcenter.org to ask for information about the sponsorship opportunities.
Awesome.
We are expecting to have 3,000 plus
Wow.
individuals. This last year, we actually had around 3,000 people coming at a given time, but we're hoping to have more. Than the venue has more parking space.
Yes, well, that's
There's
so nice.
more opportunities to have artisans coming in. So it will be a really fun event, exciting, and we'll happily enjoy to having anybody come into the festival.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yes,
for all that you do for the community, including this, and then all the work at the Latinx Center as well.
thank you.
This was a
Yes,
fascinating conversation. I said it off air, but I'm going to say it on air. You are welcome to come back anytime because
thank you.
you're constantly evolving, and we want to continue the conversation.
I'll be happy to come anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for tuning in to a really fun edition of Chamber Chat. Remember that the Lowell Hispanic and Latinx Fest is happening on September 28th at Boarding House Park from 1 to 9. So mark your calendar. We'll be back again soon.